It is Wednesday, January 11th, 9:47 p.m. I am just getting home from Bible study, and I'm not well now. I was fine, totally fine, and I got triggered, and on my way walking home, I had to do deep breathing exercises and talking to myself so that I wouldn't go into a full-blown anxiety attack, which I'm still trying to fight off now. And I want to cry. My body wants to cry, but I don't want to. So in Bible class, Bible study tonight, we started a new theme of like telling our story to people, like reaching out to people, like making disciples, like stuff like that. And like the kind of tool that they gave us for tonight, they're gonna be giving us like different tools. The tool they gave us tonight, essentially this worksheet, and it was kind of like 4 parts to it. Creation, fall, rise, and something else. I forget it. But like in the beginning, again, like I was like excited. And then in the middle of it, like having to like answer these questions, the questions that were on the sheet. It brought back a memory that I had forgotten about, of something that I even forgot happened. One of the questions on the sheet pretty much was like, something along the lines of like lies you believe, something along those lines. And the memory that it had brought up for me was that pretty much the day that I found out I was adopted, well, actually like a few days after, a week or so, like after I found out I was adopted, I think I have a video on talking about how I found out I was adopted. I think I do. And I talked about it on my podcast too. A week or so after I found out I was adopted, I was very angry with my mom, the one who raised me, because just the thought of just her lying to me all these years. I didn't find out I was adopted until I was like 17 years old in high school. And it was just like in those moments I was like piecing together all these things that in that moment I realized didn't make sense, and then like it hit me that it's like, oh, I was being lied to this whole time. What had hit me and hurt me the most of the memory that had resurfaced was like, it's like the person who like raised me, my mom, like she put me through hell in a lot of different circumstances, education wise, like how I should be acting as like a aunt to my nieces and nephews, and being a good sister. And mind you, I was the baby of the family, at least from my adopted side. I was the youngest, and I had all this responsibility put on me, and the pressure of having to be this like quote unquote golden child. But then anytime I did a little mistake, whether knowingly or unknowingly, they gave me shit about it. And then to come to find out that she's not even the woman that brought me into this world, and that she lied to me about it, and that my sister, who I grew up with, who's a year older than me, she knew about it, and she herself is adopted also. It gave me the feeling of just like, so I was never fully good enough for you growing up, and I wasn't even good enough for you to tell me the truth. That you didn't raise me? Like, you could have sat down and explained to me that, hey, the person who brought you into this world wasn't fully capable of taking care of you the way that they should have been able to. But they loved you enough to give you away to someone else that could do for you what they couldn't. And I was a very understanding child. Like, I was able to pick up on things like kind of quickly, you know? And that's what I was the most upset about. That is like, you already put so much pressure and thought into me, of me feeling like I was never good enough. I had to just prove myself like time and time again, and I was under this like microscope of a magnifying glass all the time. And at that point, my identity about myself was just like, I need to be this person I need to be this type of person for my mom. I need to be this type of person for my sister. I need to be this type of person for my nieces and nephews, my brothers, this, that, and the other. And then to find out that the life I was living was a lie and wasn't technically really my life, meaning that I didn't have to go through all of that. You didn't have to put me through all of what I had to go through, of what I went through. And then what makes it worse is that I don't have a relationship with my biological mother. I decided to distance myself from her because, one, she will never be the mother that she needs to be for her kids. And two, she has repeated cycles of just unhealthy behavior, not even as a mother, but as a person, towards not just me, but other people in my family. And I'm at a point in my life where I can't sacrifice my sanity for anyone anymore. I don't care if you brought me to this world or not. I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but so to get back to the Bible study, we did a little exercise where we had to talk to the person that was like sitting with us, and like pretty much like with the dialogue of like how we came to Christ and what is like our like redemption story or whatever. And the anxiety in that moment immediately kicked in. Like essentially the exercise was like pretty much to get us like kind of warmed up for like evangelizing to people. And I hate evangelizing. I hate it. Yes, I'm a Christian and I hate evangelizing. I'm going to tell you why. Anytime I would talk to someone, and this wouldn't be of like me with the intention of trying to convert them. These moments always happen spontaneously. I would start up a conversation with someone. It'll be based off of something very random. And then I would tell them an interesting fact about myself, and they'll be like, oh, why is that? Or like, oh, like that's interesting. They'll ask me a question of like why or how, whatever. And then I'll give them an answer. But then they ask another question, which involves me to go deeper. And then that continues, and then it eventually leads me to have to share a traumatic detail about my life. And the realization that hit me, which caused me to be triggered and to try to hold off an anxiety attack up until this point, is that my whole life experience has been trauma. My story is trauma. And what is it? There was like two people who had like gave examples of like with the worksheet and everything, how they like filled it out. And then it's like, of course, the end of like the redemption, that is like now like they like believe, like have this like, I get like somewhat kind of like a confidence or whatever in themselves. And I'm not confident in anything. I'm not. And it just made me realize that it's like, okay, I definitely don't have faith in God. I don't. Like, it's a little bit. And like to other people, like in my life, they'll see it as like, oh, but it's like you still show up to church, like you're still on the worship team, like you're still attending like the Bible study, things like that. And it's like, I'm really only showing up because I can't be alone. I can't be alone. That's like, being around people gives me the excuse and some type of energy that is like, oh, I can cover up whatever I'm going through because I'm around people. And because I already don't like people feeling bad for me, I already don't like people looking at me in a certain type of way or judging me, that gives me the fuel to be able to keep doing what I'm doing, which is to keep going to church, to keep like being on the worship team, to keep going to the Bible study. But then it's like as soon as I enter through the door of my studio apartment here in Brooklyn, it hits me all over again. And I deal with this cycle every single day. I deal with the cycle of the fact that I don't know who I am because there was a version of myself of who I thought I was, and then to find out that that was a lie, and then trying to get in touch with what I thought my true self was like my biological family, and it's like, oh, no, that's not good either. And just too many instances of confirming the thoughts and feelings I have of myself of not being good enough. And it's like I have to bring some type of a certain type of value. Like I have to be quote unquote good at something for people to love me in the way that I'm supposed to be loved, without it being some type of transaction. Like I feel like a fucking prostitute. It's like I'm giving what I'm supposed to be giving to people for the different type of relationships in my life, and it's like, what have I gotten back? I've gotten confusion, I've gotten abuse, I've gotten pain, I've gotten betrayal, I've gotten heartbroken, and all these things are a part of my story that's supposed to be connected to my fucking redemption story in Christ or whatever. And nobody wants to hear that. Me going off on a tangent to have to say all these things. And then to whoever watches this video is like, oh, but you don't have to say all that. And it's like, no, I do, because it's all connected. And I don't know how to shorten it. I don't know how to shrink it down because everything is so big. All these big events have happened. Like there hasn't been, it hasn't been like, oh, big event, small event, big event, small event, or like big, small, small, big, small, big, big, small. No, it's been big, 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 a fucking weight of shit hitting me one after the other, and I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I haven't been able to breathe for like 20 years. I haven't been able to breathe for 20 years. I haven't been able to pause, to rest. To just be for 20 years. And somehow God is in the midst of all of this. And I don't care if people say, oh, you shouldn't be feeling this way towards God. And I say to that, you would too if you were in my shoes. Do I realize it's wrong to be this way towards God? Yes. But let me have this moment, this kind of one time that I have aside from when I do pray to God, to just